Hey guys, nice to have you with me again. I felt the urge to make this video to let you know that I'm not just some guy who wants to participate in this event, that I have some experience and I'm going to show you. So while you're watching me, I'm going to start sharing my screen here to just kind of show what vehicles I've had in the past. And I've got some photos. I mean, a lot of this is pretty old stuff, but it'll show you what I've had, some of the stuff that I've done, and that, you know, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing. So I'm going to start recording my screen now, and it should hopefully be recording. Starting back when I was 15, my first car was an 85 Ford Mustang GT, and on my list here, it's actually number 2. I also had a Bronco 2 in the family, an Eddie Bauer one. But my 85 Mustang GT, I'm going to pull up some photos here of it. This was just my first car and kind of an introduction into Mustangs, really. I wanted a Camaro. Go figure, right? I wanted a Camaro first, but my dad had done some work and the guy couldn't pay him, and he ended up giving him this old 85 Mustang GT, which was not the fuel-injected model of that we all know from 86 and on, but it was still that Fox body. It was kind of garbage, but it was the first car. So I'd done some stuff to it, just kind of getting into the whole modification thing. So let's move on. After that, I ended up picking up a 91 Mustang LX50 convertible. I'm not sure if I actually have any photos of that here. I don't think I do. But again, did some stuff with that. Learned about chassis stiffening, and actually how it really makes a difference with subframe connectors. Did some 373s, or maybe I did 355s, but the gears on the car. Had it dyno tuned. Did the pulleys and some other few things with that convertible. And then I ended up buying a 95 Mustang GT when I worked at a Ford dealership out in Fairfax, Virginia. I did quite a lot to that. It started off completely bone stock 95 GT. It was white on tan. Pull up a photo or two of that here. That photo actually had a Cobra bumper on it, but it was a 95 Mustang GT. I did some suspension work, upgraded wheels and tires, stickier tires, wider wheels. It was the Cobras. I think I had some Steedos on there too at one point, and I did some autocrossing. I was drag racing up until then, and this car is the first car that I took autocrossing, and I know I have some video of that somewhere. Here's some from drag racing there. So learning how to drive manual fast started with the 91 LX Vert, but getting into autocrossing, here's a shot right there, small shot of autocrossing the car. But God, back then a 640 by 480 was a pretty good size image. And then we started taking one day. So we did I did intake manifold on the car, all the other bolt-ons, and one day I can't remember what we were doing. I was over at a buddy's house, and we were like, "Hey, let's not cut that wiring harness." That's actually my buddy Kevin here, but we decided to do some work on the car. I think I was going to do what was it? I don't remember if it was a head swap or cam swap or something, but we start taking apart the car. There's a GT40 intake manifold on the ground there, and decide, you know what, we'll just take the heads off and swap those too. It was quite a learning experience because the car sat in my buddy's parents' garage, taking his spot and his parents' garage space up for a couple days, and they were not pleased. I had it towed back to the house and ended up building it up. Originally was going to put on some, I think it was some trick flow heads, and something didn't fit right. And I ended up going back and doing my research and buying another set of Edelbrock heads. And I wanted something that flowed really well on the top end. I wanted a V8 with top end power. And when it was all done, I ended up with this, which had Edelbrock heads, the RPM Performer 2 intake manifold. I think it was an 85 millimeter MAF, a 70 millimeter throttle body. I don't remember all the parts, but you can see it still had the pulleys, and I had the strut tower brace on there. And the car ended up making 310 to the ground, which was pretty good for back then with just a V8, and it had the E303 cam, which we had to get custom tuned for that car, because the 94, 95 ECUs just didn't like big cams, and that E303 was kind of on the border of the cams that you could really get a good tune with on the factory ECU. So, here's another picture of the car when it was just, actually this was one of the first autocrosses that I did. It wasn't anything fancy to look at, but I was how old, 17, 18. It was one of my first cars. There's another autocross picture. So yeah, that got me into it. After that, while all this was going on, a buddy of mine was big into imports, and he had an Integra GSR, and I admit I really liked driving his Integra GSR, and he had bolt-ons on that too. It was a header, tune, catback, just very basic stuff. I don't think he had any suspension work on the car, but yeah, one day I came across this 94 Integra GSR that was at a dealership. I picked it up for $7,000, and this is the car that, excuse me, that was some Panda Express. Just had to get it out, man. That's the car that kind of got me into trouble and really got me going with the modifications. So it was a 94 Integra, red on the black cloth interior. Let me see if I have any stock photos of it here. Probably sort by like date, oldest to newest, right? Sort by date, and we want oldest to newest. Actually, that would be descendant. Okay, so we'll start back here. When I first got the car, it was the 4x4 94 GSR with the old bumper design. They changed it up, and I think it was 96 or 97. They changed the bumpers, changed the wheels, a few other things, but it was still made 170 horsepower, 5-speed, open differential, unfortunately. But I ended up buying a Quay for it, among other things. So at first, I knew I really wanted to get back into autocrossing, which I did, and I took a track day out at Summit Point. No, first track day was with the National Prelude Club at Beaver Run near Pittsburgh, and that got me hooked on track days. And here's a picture with my Mustang and the Integra. I was in the process of selling the Mustang after buying the Integra. I knew that's what I wanted. So I did some very basic stuff on a fairly small budget. I converted the rear suspension and an all suspension to Integra Type R suspension, and I had H&R race springs with Takiko, was it Takiko's Illumina, something like that? I don't remember if they were adjustable or not. God, this is back in, how old was I? Jeez, I was 20. 21, that's 14 years ago, guys. 13, 14 years ago. But I did track days with it, and that's what got me into track days. And I continued adding powered Comptech airbox, spoon exhaust. Yeah, here it is, that one. Sounded good, handled really good. I did upgraded tires on it. With the suspension, it sat right. I like that semi-raked look. Let's see what I got. I'm just kind of remembering things as we go here. And here it is with the Comptech airbox. I did headers on there. I did the skunk intake manifold. Does that sound right? I feel like that's what it was. ITR manifold or skunk manifold. Here's some pictures of the intake manifold. It's slowly coming back to me. I eventually went with a thermal exhaust on the car, and then I put in the Integra Type R seats, the JDM ones, which I have very fond memories of them. Maybe they're not quite as good as I remember, but they were great. I want to remember them as being great. I picked up a set of Work RSZR wheels, which I really, really liked. Here's another shot of those guys. Not too clear on the photos, but let's see if I can find one when they're installed on the car. Here we go. Again, man, steady hands. Not so steady hands taking pictures, I guess. But getting back into why I know I can do this. I've been around building cars up with the Mustang, with this car. Here's my buddy's Integra Type R that put down 210 horsepower to the ground at Inline Pro's dyno. There's my GSR. So we did a lot of work on that car and my own car. My car was dyno tuned after installing a turbo kit, which I'll get to here. I picked up a Greddy turbo, and let's see here. There's a picture of it installed here. So there's my car with the Greddy turbo kit. It was tuned at 8 PSI, I think, and it put down 260 wheel horsepower, I think, which was quite a bit. I was running a Honda S2, I think. Here's a picture of the car on Summit Point. A couple photos there. One of these might be pretty entertaining. Let's see if I can find the photo for you guys. This is coming through, was it turn 5, 6, 7 down there. Eventually changed the wheels on the car, doing some more autocrosses. Where is my photo? There's a good photo that I had here of the car passing my buddy's Integra Type R on Summit Point, Maine, on fire. It was smoking. Where is that photo? You guys aren't going to believe me unless I show you, but yeah, there's a picture of me. The car's on fire and I'm passing my buddy's Integra Type R. The car's not actually on fire, but it's smoking like it's on fire. And what happened was the gasket on the dipstick had got so hot, just where the position is on the exhaust manifold there and the turbo and all that, it just heated up and caught fire on track coming out of T10 on Summit Point. So I'm passing my buddy's Type R, smoke's barreling out. Had to stop and figure out what that was. But yeah, there's my Integra Type R. So it started off with bolt-on, suspension, wheels, tires, turbo kit, tuning, track days. You know, I know what I'm doing with that. After that, I had a run-in with Fairfax County Police Department one night when I was waiting to go to a friend's house late at night. I was just kind of putting around the neighborhood in a shopping center, and I was leaving the shopping center. I wasn't doing anything. Leaving the shopping center, cops behind me, light turns green, so I go across the highway to make my exit. Nothing, fancy. Okay. The car had the turbo kit and it had no exhaust. It had a high flow cat, 3-inch high flow cat, and no muffler, just straight back. It was kind of loud, but it had a turbo. And at the same time, you had, the neon SRT 4s that were louder than this thing. For God's sakes. Anyway, pulls me over, writes me up for this and that, ends up taking my registration, taking my tags. I had to tow my car back to my parents' house at like 2 in the morning. They told me to put the car back to stock in something like 2 weeks. Otherwise, I would have to go through all this nonsense to get my car registered again. And at that point, with all the stuff going on with Hondas, the thefts and all that, I was like, I'm done. I'm through. So I ended up trading it for a bone stock 93 BMW 325 IS. Which I'm trying to find a photo here. I left it stock for about 3 days. And then I was out doing stuff like this. This is an autocross, not a drift event. But I did lots of autocrosses with the car too. As you can see, big brake kit from UUC. It was cheap at the time and it worked. I did track days with it, had Cozy K1s, Michelin Pilot PS2 tires on the car. I did drift events with driftshowOff.com. I guess that was one of them. Placed fairly well at that event actually for only having 170 horsepower. So really learned to drive the car and get the most out of it. I did a lot of track days with it, and here's some more entertaining photos, I guess. Sliding around a bit. I had Road Race Tech one-off suspension of custom valved Bilsteins with, I think it was iBox springs. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the car handled really good. Some videos, I guess, right there. And after that, I ended up, well, in between, I also had a Nissan 300ZX, which, I don't know if I have photos of that. I do. Not too many, but I picked up this stock 300ZX, and I ended up doing full adjustable control arms, front and rear, HKS coilovers, B&B exhaust, and I had some plans with the car, and it was okay, but it didn't wow me, and I ended up selling it and keeping my 325 IS, and had a 99 M3. It was more or less stock, didn't do much with that, and I picked up, here, let me go back into my photos. Sorry guys, I dropped that out, or closed that out. Now came my 91 Acura NSX, and I picked that up. Here it is with my 325. Actually, was this the M3? That was my buddy's M3. But I picked up an NSX. It was totally stock at the time, and I started doing light modifications on it. Originally, I just wanted to put it back to stock. It had these Blitz wheels on it, and I ended up picking up stock NSX wheels, and I was running Hankook RS3 tires, I think. I don't remember what they were. It's just stock size stuff. And, was enjoying the car. And then I started doing some modifications to it. NSXR wing, suspension, did time attacks with Redline time attacks up at Beaver Run, at Summit Point. Did some skid pad events with it, one with Corvette Club. Give some kids a ride around a wet skid pad with the NSX, which was great. This is the event out at Beaver Run, just comparing, looking at some photographer shots here of the car. Had a custom Z-Tech exhaust on it. There's my buddy Kevin's M3 behind chasing me. Placed well in that. I think it was second place, finish in street modified class at the time. Again, I'm scrolling through some photos here. So that was the NSX. I dabbled into a Audi A4, which was a mistake. Put a little bit of money in that. Big brakes, some chip, suspension work right away. Decided that wasn't going to pan out the way I wanted it. Got rid of it. Had an Infiniti G35, a Nissan 350Z, which I did really like my Nissan 350Z. When I got it, it already had a lot of Nismo parts on it already. It had the Nismo kit, Nismo body kit, Nismo exhaust, Nismo intake, Nismo headers, short headers on there. It dynoed at 260 wheel horsepower. Here's a movie of the dyno. I don't know if I have the dyno sheet printed out, but yeah, it made 260. That car was fun, but at the time, learning all about those engines, you couldn't get a lot more than 300 wheel horsepower out of those NA engines, and I knew I wanted to do time attack and wanted more than that. And if I wanted turbo, I could do a turbo route and make more power, but those engines didn't seem to be the most reliable once you're getting more than, say, 400 wheel. I think at the time was kind of that limit of those engines. Granted, they were cheap, but I didn't want to be popping engines every couple of events at the tune of 1,500 for a short block and then install and all that. I didn't want to deal with that. But yeah, that was my 350Z. Also did some suspension work on that, and I had work wheels at one point, which I got rid of and went back to the factory wheels, and then eventually got the Rays, not them, the LM, what are they called? LM, maybe they're just LM. Crap, what were they called? The 5-spoke wheels, those guys. GTL, I can't remember, the Nismo wheels, whatever, yeah. So after that, I had stumbled across a supercharged E36 328 sedan. And coming from a lot of other E36s, I was very familiar with the car, knew a lot of people in the community that was running and racing E36s. And this thing was supercharged with a Vortec V1 first gen, a Eurobond aftercooler, where you fill it up and keep it cool. I did some suspension work on this with TC Kleins all around, and I ran into some reliability issues with that generation supercharger. The belt pulley kept coming off, and the solutions that we tried, just it wouldn't stay on there, especially during track days. And because I was trying to do time attacks with it, that just didn't work out. Here's another picture of the car, a couple pictures. I'll just scroll through here so you guys can see. There's a younger me, right, with some hair. What are you doing? Hey, guy. Let me get to some of the track stuff. I had, Sparkos in the car. So I ended up, I was at this Redline time attack, and I had the big brake kit on this car. This thing was pretty quick. I think somebody was estimated, I never had a dyno tune, but somebody was saying the number 340 comes to mind. I will tell you that a buddy of mine had a bolt-on Cadillac CTS-V, the first gen, and this car would run neck and neck with that car all the way to top of fourth gear. So this car moved out, man. I'm telling you, it was good. I went to the time attack with it, and I was getting all dialed in. The car felt good, and then it just started running like crap. And I didn't really know enough about the tuning of this car at the time to figure out exactly what it was. In hindsight, it ended up being a faulty ground wire off of the splice job that was required for the supercharger install, and it basically ruined my race weekend. And so between that and the pulleys not staying on the belts not staying on the pulleys and flying off, and always having to have a spare pulley in the car, I ended up getting rid of it. And so after that, I'm only halfway through this list, guys. I had a 99 Corvette fixed roof coupe, which is the FRC you might have known. But think of a Z06, but without the Z06 engine. So I did a number of time attack events with that car, and just kind of scrolling through some of the photos here. This was from Summit Point. This is down in Shenandoah Circuit. I took first place in street class in this event. I upgraded Z06 sway bars from the C6 Z06, the shocks, got rid of the pop-up headlights for the fixed position projector headlights, had a Corbeau FX1 Pro. Here's me in the car in an article of, I think it was Modified Magazine. So yeah, that car was cool. And I ended up getting rid of that one after a number of track days and time attacks. This is the dyno tune session on it. It made, wow, where's my dyno? It made 345 and like 370 foot-pounds of torque. With the Z06 titanium catback, a paper filter, and the tune. No other power mods on the car other than that. And I did do the lightweight SSR wheels, and I think I ran 275s all around. It was a square setup, 18 by 9.5 Falcon RT 615s. So got to drive that car pretty hard. Really enjoyed it. I had going through the list here, I kind of took a break from track days at that point, but I had a 540i Auto IS300. I had an 08 STI with a couple bolt-ons. I ended up selling that before the engine grenaded. A Mini Cooper S that was pretty fun, and I did camber plates, Derez's Star Spec tires, did some autocrossing. Never got onto a track, but did some autocrossing with it. That was fun. I can't remember what the issue was with that car, but I ended up getting rid of it. Had a Z4 3.0 6-speed coupe, not the Roadster, but the coupe. That car was cool. A little too quiet for my taste. I got into mountain biking, had an X5 4.4 to haul my bikes around. Kind of got out of the track stuff and fast car things. The X5 was a gas hog, and ended up getting rid of that to pick up a 07 E92 328i Sport with the 6-speed manual. That car was fun, but super quiet. I didn't want to do the mods. I was actually debating between that car and a 370Z at the time, but I liked the way that the BMW drove and had a little bit more space, and I think it handled really good. Now, I got rid of that car for my 2004 BMW M3. And that car I had longer than anything. I bought that in 2011 and I sold it in 2014. And that car, I did a lot of DIY projects on that, just fixing little things here and there with it. I ended up doing suspension, exhaust. I had the Euro header, had it tuned. So here's here's the car. Very clean. I had the factory 18 by 9 and a half, factory 18 by 9s. Yeah, 18 by 9s all the way around with 255 squared or 245 squared, whatever it was that I was running at the time. It was a paired spring and shock combo with Bilsteins and Eibach Pro Kit, I think. I had it. It was the factory catback, but then I had the Euro header installed. You can see I went from 300 to 320 horsepower, 320 wheel horsepower, tuned by Frank Smith up in Crofton, Maryland. And I ended up selling that car with 170,000 miles on it, and it ran like a champ. I ended up doing a carbon fiber sunroof panel in there with the competition package headliner. Unfortunately, I didn't do any track days with that car, just a couple autocross things. This is me kind of being goofy in the shop one day. There's an Evo 8 or Evo 9. I guess it was an Evo 8 spoiler laying around, and I put it on the back of... I just sat it on the trunk just to see what it would look like. Whatever. So then after that, I sold my M3, and I was like, God, what do I get? I still want something that's fun, can be track worthy, and I ended up picking up a 2015 Subaru WRX, and I immediately went out and found somebody with an STI trunk to swap. So that's what you see here. Pro Drive wheels, the Cobb access port. Didn't get crazy with that car at all before I realized that it just really wasn't for me. All-wheel drive was okay, but I guess I remember why I got rid of my STI, besides the whole Ringland issues that car had. I decided, I don't know why, I ended up getting a 535i E60 BMW. So here it is. It was a sport pack. There's my WRX, one of the last days I saw it. It's still floating around town here somewhere. And I ended up buying a set of Apex Arc 8s, 18 by 10s, I think, all around, and I slapped those on there. Had to do some fitment. I had to finesse the fitment a little bit with some spacers and some wheel studs, I think. But we made it work. And there it is on the car. Had a JB4 on it. Started to do filters and some other stuff when I realized that the engine had some issues. There it is. And I ended up getting rid of the car. It was a fun family sedan, I tell you. It was automatic, not the manual, but that thing hauled ass and it was comfortable. After that, I had another BMW. I ended up purchasing an F30 328. Where are my photos of that car? That must be on Flickr somewhere. So yeah, Flickr. Pull up a couple photos of that. Come on and load. So that car, I also did some work, and I did do track days. Tracked it at NJMP. Let me see. God, where's my car? My car. Personal cars. Where's my personal cars? Personal cars. There it is. So this was my 328i 6-speed. It was a 2-liter turbo, 240 horse. I didn't do any power mods on there, but I did do an exhaust on the car just so I could hear the engine a little bit more. I did end up doing a track day with it. I'm scrolling down because I don't know why I'm scrolling down. I had where's my... I had Dynon springs on it, Bilstein dampers. The Dynons were a linear, not a linear, a fixed rate spring. So that was one of the only ones, I think it was actually the only linear flat rate spring on the market. And I went with that with the Bilsteins, tracked it. It was okay. It lacked some power, lacked the noise. It was comfortable, but it was okay. So yeah, did a couple track days with that. Also had a full AP Racing big brake kit all around with Volk LE 30. And I'm back. Something happened with my camera right there where it just cut off the video. Sony a6500, if you're wondering. I don't know if it was an overheating issue or what, but it cut out on me. So yeah, I was saying that I had the F3328i 6-speed, did the exhaust on it, did the Dynon Springs, Bilsteins, tracked it a couple times, had AP Racing, full big brake kit all around. I know it was overkill for that car, but I did glaze and toast the factory brake setup the first day out at NJMP, and that was braking from like 115, 120 down to 60 or something, and the factory pads were just garbage and glazed. And anyway, after that car, I ended up getting the E92 M3. I was searching around, found one cheap, ended up talking the guy down a couple grand and picked it up for about 21,000. It was fair condition, fairly clean. It wasn't a show car condition. It wasn't a showroom car by any means. It was a daily driven M3 with reasonable miles and in pretty decent shape. So I picked that up, and since I've owned it, I've repaired a couple, just small things here and there. Nothing that's failed. It's just, hey, it's getting worn out, and fix it. Anyway, so yeah, guys, I've had quite a few cars. I feel like I have, with all of these modifications and track days, I really understand what it's going to take to build something that's going to be competitive, especially if we got to do it on a budget. So please, if you're down with this, the idea is that we're going to have full transparency on all of the ad revenue that's going to support this, from up to 10,000 subscribers, or at least if we get more than that, even greater, even better, so we can really go a little bit more crazy or wild with whatever it is that we decide to do. We'll pick a car, we'll pick mods, we'll decide what we're going to spend this money on, we're going to build it up. I've got shops in the area, I've got space to do this, I've got friends that will help. We will make this happen. This will be the subscribers car for this Showdown, and it'll just happen to have my name on it, but all of the thanks, all of the credit will go to you guys. If you're on board, all it takes is a subscription. If you don't like my stuff, that's cool. If you just want to see if I can get a chance to get in there, that would be awesome. If you really want to give it a shot, subscribe. That's all you got to do. And tell your friends. That would be awesome too. So we'll see if this happens. It's up to you guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.